All right, welcome everyone. We are live in Pulse Overtime, and this is our weekly session where we have the opportunity to review some questions that came from our Pulse Power session. So we have our hourly Pulse Power session, and also live stream with anyone from our coaching community that might have questions about how to grow their business. I'm joined by my friend and business partner, Anna McKeel. Anna, welcome. And what are we talking about today? What do we got going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, welcome everyone. We're so excited to have you join us on today's Pulse Overtime with Brendan Bartic and myself. This week, we're really taking a deep dive. It's part two of a four-part series on how you can leverage the buyer, seller, and investor seminar to not only communicate and stay connected with your database, but also grow a future pipeline of business. So, if you joined us last week, we were talking all about how we prepare. What's the calendar going to look like? When we're going to put these seminars in the books. And this week, we talked a lot about driving attention, attraction, and signups to the event that we plan on hosting. So, a lot of the questions today are: how do I build that invitation? How do I make sure I'm getting in front of the right people? And what do I have to do to guarantee attendance at my event?
Yeah, I love it.
So,
Yeah, yeah. So, and then of course, as people are coming on, welcome. Ray Morosi's joining us live. We got Shannon joining us live. Always love our live guests. If you have any questions, let us know. You're the priority here, just so you know. But let's jump in. So, one of the big questions you were telling me earlier before we jumped on here is in trying to, I guess, schedule this out or build it out is the time frame, right? Like, talk to me, I guess, a little bit about, right? We're talking more so about reverse engineering. If I want to do a seminar, should I schedule it 60 days out, 30 days out, a week out? What's the normal time frame?
yeah, no, that's a great question. And really, we recommend that every event should be built at least 4 weeks in advance. There's a lot of logistics that go into it. You also have to build the presentation. You have to make sure that you've practiced the presentation. And the last thing you want to do to yourself is put yourself under unnecessary pressure because you've waited too long to do the necessary things to have a successful event. So, really, a lot of the back end logistics just to get it launched and off the ground should happen anywhere between 4 and 6 weeks out. Doesn't mean that you can't pull it off in a shorter amount of time. It's just going to require a lot more diligence on your part of just having to clip through some of the necessary logistics to make sure that it actually is a high quality result. Because when you have folks, Brennan, we know this, when you have folks joining us, whether you're in person or live, and it feels unorganized, that's their feeling about you as a
Sure.
professional,
Yeah.
right?
No, absolutely. And then Ray asks, do you have a ratio of invites to attendees? So Ray, I love ratios. So remember the playbook that we're going off of, right? And the talented agent that we're learning from this week, she's saying for every 10 people that show up, she's producing one buyer sale or one seller sale, one listing sold from that attendance. Now, I believe what your question is invites to attendance ratio. So here's our golden rule, Ray. If we have a room of 50, we overbook everything by 30%. So perfect example. We have a great event on Thursday, Sold in 65. You should come to it. I know you've been. You'd love it again. It's getting better every time. But it's on Thursday here locally in Denver, and we know that the place sits 50, right? So we'll usually invite, and I don't know what 30% is exactly, 75 because we know we're going to have about 25 people that are going to drop out, right? So that's for the live in person. I would say that you're going to have, maybe Anna, you know the numbers better. What, 30% that just
Yeah.
no show? Is that fair?
Yeah, that's really fair on in-person events and digital. You can kind of expect the same, anywhere between a 30 to 40% fallout on digital events. So that ratio is actually a little bit higher. So we do a lot more to push virtual events just to kind of accommodate that fallout rate.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great question. And a lot of it is that last 24 hours. Anna, you know it. I'm neurotic about this. Everyone in my team gets so annoyed with me. I wake up every morning before we either do a big webinar. So, like next week, we're doing a massive, webinar for how to build your 46 touched system, right? We'll put that in the chat box below. The morning of, we'll have 600 people registered for this event, right? But like we're averaging about 600
Mhm.
registrations. If you don't remind everybody the morning of, especially because a lot of us are real estate agents, very similar to most people in any business, they have life happening, all of this, they forget about it, they don't think about it. Or is there nothing that was interesting enough that what related to them for them to attend? Was there a pain point that they needed solved that if they came today, it was worth them coming today instead of going to have a margarita at, I don't know where you have margaritas, at some place where you have margaritas, right? It has to be more important, especially in those evening hours. Like we do the same thing with career nights. We do the same thing with all of these types of events. And I've hosted plenty of seller seminars trying to get that attendance in the last minute. I have to hit a button why they would find value in it, right?
Mhm.
So
And to be honest, the statistic that backs up what Brendan is talking about, 62%, and this, I'll send a copy of the report in the link below as well. 62% of all your signups happen in the last 72 hours prior to the event. So oftentimes yeah, it's huge, right? So oftentimes when agents host a buyer, seller, or investor seminar, they're doing a social media campaign that lasts 3, 4, 5 weeks. They kind of get in their head about it and they go, oh my gosh, I only have 5 people registered. We're 3 weeks out. Oh my gosh, I only have 7 people registered. I'm 2 weeks out. Stay consistent with your communication and your marketing because everyone's going in the last 72 hours going to make a decision on whether they come. And the more they've seen you leading up to that point, the higher percentage chance that they will actually sign up to attend.
I love it. Yeah. And for those that are joining us, we're just talking about how to really what we're talking about is our sales funnel. I talked about a little bit in our session today. It's just we want to get people from the outside world into our world. And we do that through value in education. We do that through providing something where we either, you see this all the time. People provide a panel where they interview people, right? If you turn on whatever news channel you watch, I'm not going to say one because I get attacked every time I say anything about news channels, right? Whatever news channel you watch or whatever financial channel you watch, they're always bringing in experts. If you, okay, probably a safe one, Sports Center, right? If Sports Center was only one guy or gal talking about what they think about sports, would anybody watch it, right?
Probably.
The only reason people come to Pulse is because of Anna. If it was just me, no one would come to this. It would get boring and stale extremely fast, right? So when you're doing these seminars, you're bringing in, just like Stephen A. Smith, he brings in so and so who was a 3-time world champion, a linebacker. He's got the other guy with the hair that does the weird thing. He's got the gal that's amazing that knows all the stats and all these stuff. So he's just basically having conversation and he's getting their input on a subject. That's it. They're just a host. So when we do these workshops, webinars, events, I really was thinking a lot about this before we jumped on here. If you think about hosting a home buyer seminar, right? And maybe we had somebody on our session that was like, I've never done a seminar. I've been in business for 3, 4 weeks. I'm new to this whole process, which is awesome. And we also have people that have done hundreds of deals in Pulse. If you've never done this, you're really looking to bring either another agent on that you can interview, talk to them about that, the lender, the title rep, the inspector, the home contractor, the stager, maybe not for a home buyer, but right, like whatever the cast of characters are that you're going to have, and then you're just giving them time to speak. Now, please remember from last week, we had the recording, if you're one of our Pulse members, right? When you go back to that recording, remember one of those key components though is you got to prep these people. If I bring on a general contractor and just go, so what do you think buyers should be concerned about? And he or she just goes off on some bizarre stuff, you're going to look stupid. It's going to go all over the place. So make sure they know the questions ahead of time that you're going to ask. Ask them for their responses ahead of time. If you think there's a response on there that's going to be bizarre, call them, say, hey, I love this and I know how passionate you are, but I don't really think we want to share that publicly. It's going to turn people off, and I want to get you as much business as possible. Right, Anna?
Yeah. And yep, exactly. And Ray's asking, so the more experts, the better. Is that true? It's 100% true. Number one, because it takes a lot of the heavy lifting off of you. And even as you prep your vendor partners or your presenters, here's the thing: people want to be successful. They want to know the bumpers on their bowling lane. Um, Let them know what is available to talk about, the things we're not going to talk about. And oftentimes people don't do enough practice. So give them the opportunity to practice with you. Let me hear these answers so that we know how this is going to go in cadence. Because the other thing that often throws this off, Brendan, and we know this probably better than anyone, is the timing. If you allow people to talk, they could spend 90 seconds or 90 minutes. And so if they don't have a clear time frame, that can throw off the whole seminar. So really getting clear on expectations, what the questions you're going to ask, the answers they're going to provide ahead of time, so we're not shotgunning those answers out to our clients.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So yeah, and then Ray's saying it sounds like the more experts, the better. Remember, it's just like everything. I said this the other day. Some of the experts are going to be really good at talking and public speaking. Some are going to be terrified and not really enjoy it, and you've got to kind of extract the information out of them. So to look at this, we really want to make sure that we are we want talented people on there. I don't know if necessarily the answer is more. That's more if you want to do the least amount of talking. So first we want to start with, just like when me and Anna provide a session, people always ask us, how do you always end? And of course I ended 2 minutes over today, but how do you usually end on time in these sessions? So here's some pro tips, right? Especially if you're doing it via Zoom. I look at it and I look at the amount of slides we have. Then I estimate how much conversation it's going to require per slide. So let's say that I have a 45-minute session. I've got, let's say, 20 slides. Then I can usually estimate about 2 minutes per slide, right? And we're kind of spoiling a lot of what we're going to teach next week, right, on how to actually run the thing, right? But I'm kind of estimating. So if I have guests coming on, I can break into sections going, all right, well, this guest has 5 slides, this guest has 5 slides. Usually going to have about 2 minutes per slide, and I want to end at exactly 30 minutes to provide 15 minutes of Q&A, if that's what your goal is. So how am I going to you might get a lender that's like, I want to have 15 slides and talk about everything about how to pre-qual and the home buying process and all of this amazing things. It might not fit in your presentation. So don't allow that because it'll blow up everything else. Then you might have the home inspector who goes, slide, schmide, I don't have squat, and doesn't even have a single thing. And you go, okay, well, I'm going to create, because we already, in our Pulse Power session, right, you should have had the sample templates from last week that have a lot of these slides already created, right? You don't have to recreate the wheel. And then the last piece I'll comment on that, and before we move on, is it's never going to be perfect, right? It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to end exactly perfectly on time. It's never going to be as cool as you thought it was going to be. But the easiest part of doing this is remembering that you're just trying to provide value and then build relationships. That's all we're trying to do. Provide value and then build relationships afterwards. So, so
Yeah.
that's everything we're going to chat about today. Anything else on seminars, Anna? Because I have some other things I wanted to jump into.
Yeah, I want to kind of do two other questions that are specific to this session, and then let's jump into the other questions. We had a scenario brought up by our Pulse Power agent, Shannon, who said, if I want to focus on the neighborhood that surrounds my home, let's say it's 100 doors in any direction around my home, I've never done this, I'm new to the industry ish. Do I just jump in and do the seller seminar because it's the most helpful to my surrounding neighborhood? Is there any strategy if you were really trying to circle prospect around even your own home? Is one better than the other? What's your advice?
Well, there's a lot in that question. So to answer that as best I can, a lot of it depends on what your strength is as a presentation. So if it's my neighborhood, I'm going to do an investor seminar for me personally, because if they already own a home, then the next thing that I'm trying to do, most of them, unless there's renters there, depending on where you live, is I want them to buy their next property. I want them to become investors with me. The rate of someone selling, because you're only saying 100 houses, right? That's why I want to put this into, this is a great question,
Yeah.
right? If I'm going to go door knock 100 houses, I would focus more on an investor seminar, because the odds of out of 100 people, probably depending on the turn of that neighborhood, and we'll teach in a video on how you can find out the turn rate for your neighborhood, you're probably looking at 3.5 to 5% turn rate. So if I door knock 100 people, the odds of someone in that entire neighborhood being interested in selling or thinking about selling is probably going to be very low. And I'm just saying, instead of all of your social media and everywhere that you can market it to, if I'm door knocking 100 doors, if they already own a home, I can talk a lot about building wealth through real estate and asking them if they own an investment property. And if they do, great. Then we're having another seminar to talk about, how to advance that. If they don't, I'd love to see you there. That's where I would go with that direction. Now, I know a lot of people that live in an apartment complex per se, or live in a place where there's tons of buyers. If it all depends on, I guess, the location and the demographic of where I'm at is going to be my pitch. It doesn't mean that you can't go door knock these people and invite them to a seller seminar. It'll definitely work. I'm just trying to think about what I would get the best bang for my buck on, as far as attendance in joining. And if I'm doing that, also, right, it depends on our golden letter strategy, which is in our vault a couple sessions back. If I'm going to door knock, my first, remember, so please always write this down, and I always think about everything we do. You always have check downs. So if I'm going to door knock anything, my first check down is going to be either my golden letter, right? I have a buyer that missed out on this opportunity that's interested in your area, number one, or that a buyer that's interested in your area. If I don't have a buyer, remember, you always have a buyer. I'll buy any house just for a discount, right? If you're not going to go with that as your first initial attempt, then I'm really trying to make sure that I'm going, we just sold a home. So maybe it's a just sold in the area, or a home just sold. So I'm knocking on that door, and that rundown would be, so, oh, Anna, hey, good morning. Hey, Anna, we just sold the property at 123 Elm Street, whether you sold it or not, your company did, or a property just sold. And Anna, that property sold for $450,000. It took it 3 days to sell. I'm still working with a lot of buyers that missed out on that opportunity. So I'm coming door to door to see if you or anyone else might be interested in selling. Right then in that script, they're either going to say yes, no, or politely close the door in your face. All of those are fine. If they say no, which you've got to expect is going to be 9 out of 10 times, right? 9 out of 10 times they're going to say, no, I'm not interested in selling. Oh my gosh. Well, completely understand. I mean, it's a great neighborhood. Can I ask you this? If you were to move, where would you go next, and when would that be? Because I always have a lot of buyers for this area. Yeah, I mean, we haven't really given it too much thought, blah, blah, blah. Maybe next year after Johnny graduates high school. What we're thinking about, my pension comes into play. I'm going to retire in 6 months. Oh my gosh. Well, excellent. So 6 months, and where are you going? Oh, blah, blah, blah. Well, one of the things that I offer is a free, no strings attached market valuation of your property. I'd love to schedule that for you. I'll run all the comps, do everything, whatever you decide to use, just so you have the information. And what I'll also do, I'm going to give you some tips and strategies on the best things that you can do to your property between now and you getting your pension in 6 months or a year, to make sure that you maximize the ROI of this property, the return on your investment. So I have some availability on Saturday to come back at 3:30, or does Sunday at 1 o'clock work better for you? Right? So then that's check down one. And I know there was a lot in there, and I hope people are able to play this back. But this is why people go, well, why did you sell so many houses? It's just a different game of conversation. That's check down one. Now the second check down is going, okay, well, you have no interest in selling. If you're going to live here for the rest of your life, well, actually, one of the things that I do is I help people grow wealth through investing in real estate. Do you currently own any investment properties? If yes, offer a free market analysis for those. If no, oh my gosh, really? Well, I'm actually hosting an investor seminar on April 15th. It's virtual or in person, whichever one you're going to do. It's from 6 to 7:30 p.m. It talks all about how you can invest in your first investment property. What's the best email to send you that invite to, and what's your phone number? Just ask. They're either going to say no, get away from me, or they're going to say yes. A lot of times they're going to say yes. So that's my next check down. Then the third check down that I have is always, of course, putting them on a market report. Yeah, I'm not interested. I'm actually in no place to buy. I'm going through a divorce. I'm not going to invest in real estate anytime soon. Oh my gosh, you're going through a divorce. Oh well, you obviously want to know what's happening in the real estate market. You might need this for the attorneys. Everyone here in the neighborhood gets a ton of value from the market report that I put them, or this fantastic market report that I provide every month. Would you like to receive that by email or regular mail? Most of my clients like it by email. Email, okay, great. What's the best email address for it? And of course, you can unsubscribe at any time if you don't find the information valuable. It's the only email that you'll receive from me, but people are really loving it. So, okay, Brendan at gmail.com. Wonderful. Well, John, it was so wonderful meeting you. If there's anything I can ever do to provide you any value in the real estate world, please take my card. Have a great day. Right. And I know that was a lot, Anna, but I just want to make sure she's going out into the field and I'm excited for her to go door knock these 100 doors. Just think about it. Now, you could have easily used seller seminar in lieu of investor seminar. So, hey, if you're not interested in selling, but I want to start the conversation not with the invite to the seminar. I want the seminar to be my secondary check down, right? Not my first. My first should always be, we have buyers for your neighborhood. Are you interested in selling? I have a buyer for your house. Are you interested in selling? We just sold a house in your area. Are you interested in selling? Are you interested in selling? Are you interested in selling? Always start there first and then go check down two, three, four to maximize
Mhm.
every door.
Yeah,
That was a
for
really,
those that are
really
listening,
weird answer to a very good question.
no, I was just going to say for anyone listening, that was an absolute masterclass on conversations. And the really big takeaway, if you really want to increase your conversion, is get really good at checkdowns. Don't
Yeah.
just have a single conversation, have multiple ways to have the same conversation, and don't just allow one answer to end the conversation that you're in. Right. So
Yeah.
replay that part back over and over and over again. Check out our conversations book so that you can kind of refine your messaging and get better at those checkdowns.
Yeah, and we have a door knocking video that we'll put on our YouTube channel, right? And if you haven't subscribed to that, there's a ton of value on there. But we have a whole door knocking video on there. Tons of these videos we've done because we get these questions, right? And the great thing about YouTube is just play it over and over again so you can hear the verbiage, right? So you can hear some of these things. If you need to write it out, write it out. If you want to download our conversations, our sales conversation book, it's just brendanbartic.com. You can go right there. It has our entire sales conversation book, but all that stuff's there. It just takes practice. And again, it just takes a
Yeah.
strategy. Remember that you're going there for a purpose, which is to build a relationship and get a status if that person is interested in selling and when. It's always going to be a time frame that somebody's going to sell. I understand one out of 1,000 people are going to live there for the rest of their life, but that's a very low odds, right? Somebody's going to have some sort of life event that's going to change at some point, and we know the stats. Only 30% of all sellers use the agent to sell the house with that help them buy the house. 30%. That means I got a 70% shot of every single person that owns a home not using their agent. And I bet it's even lower than that. That's just what's been recorded in the National Association of Realtors, right? So I hope that helps. And then if you're going to go door knock these other 100, I want to get one last comment on this. Search and see any other people that have expired off the market that are in that area and make sure you're door knocking them too and kind of star that address. There's probably within 100 houses somebody that's expired and come off the market in the last year to 2 years. See if they've relisted or not. Of course, double check that first, follow all your state rules. But I'm going to door knock that person and be like, hey, I saw that you were on the market a few months ago and for some reason weren't able to get to the finish line. I'm working with a lot of buyers and then go through that script. So just maximize your
I
journey
love it.
as best as I can say, the trip. Cool.
That's awesome. So I know you've got a ton of really great content that you want to share with our community. I have to geek out on one thing based on a question we got from our Pulse Power agent, Linda. We were talking about how we market the event and how we create attraction towards that event to get more signups, whether you're doing a buyer, seller, or investor seminar. And she asked the really honest question. And I think it was the question that a lot of people have, and they're just too embarrassed to ask, which is, what is a hashtag? And how do I use it when we're talking about event distribution and getting people to understand what's happening? And the easiest way I can explain a hashtag is think of it as a mini Google search. It's a keyword search. There's a bazillion, cajillion things happening on the World Wide Web every single second. Hashtags help the end user. I'm on Google and I'm looking to sell my home. If you're using hashtags in your communication, it will help Google put your content in front of people that might be looking for it. And that's as simple as a hashtag gets. Is it helps Google, it helps all search engines go, if Brendan is looking to sell a home and he's looking for resources, Anna's hosting a seller seminar, maybe I should put her content in front of him to see if it's a good match. So leverage hashtags. If you have any more questions on that, let me know.
Yeah, the craziest thing about that, and I know it's now called X, not Twitter, but on Twitter, right, and now X, what I realized is if you go on there right now, you can search for people that are talking about real estate on Twitter. You can search for relocating to Denver, hashtag relocating to Colorado, hashtag, and you can connect with all these people. People are doing tons of business from even just searching hashtags. When I say a ton of business, they're building relationships and jumping on somebody's conversation thread that's public out there. They've posted something talking about, you'll see on Twitter or X, whatever, they'll be like, hey, anybody live out in Denver? What's it like there? What's the cost of living? Thinking about making a move from Chicago. They post that publicly on Twitter. You can search the keywords and you can search the hashtags, right? Find that person and be like, hey, I don't know when you're coming, but I'm a local real estate agent here. I would love to help you. It's
Mhm.
that kind of simple, but yet not simple, I guess, in a lot of ways. Um, so perfect, and yeah, and Constantine's joining us now, and thank you, Frank Lopez, for joining us. So if you have any questions, let us know. But in this final 3 minutes, I did just want to talk about something that I'm extremely passionate about, which of course is visual scoreboards. And people hear me talk about these all the time, and how much time and effort we put into getting these into the hands of people. Right now, we're about to finish the third month of the first quarter. Think about how crazy that is. And when I say finish, it's like 2 weeks away. People are like, oh, we still got time. We still got time. Do we? Do we have time? Right? Like I'm looking at our goals, right, Anna? We're big into this and we're looking at it and going, whew, right? We set a goal for our real estate team to close 750 transactions. Now, when we set up that goal this year, we obviously did seasonality. We know we sell more homes in the summer, less homes in the winter, and then it kind of ramps up. So when we built our goals into all of our planning, we took that into consideration. But I'll be very honest, we are not on track. So I have two decisions right now in my business. I either put my head in the sand and go, screw it, better luck next year. Or I blow the whistle, which Anna knows I do quite often, and I go, hello, we've got to wake up and go. Like we are not there. These metrics are not there. We're not hitting our conversation count. We're not hitting our ambassador account. We're not sending out enough text messages. We're not sending out enough emails. We're not sending out enough direct mail. We're not sending out enough golden letters. We are not doing the activities enough to make sure we get and guarantee the response that we need. Now, in our organization, we know that I have to help others get what they want. Otherwise, we don't ever get to where we want. So I'm solely focused every single day on how can I create a better marketing campaign? How can I create a better text campaign? How can I get just people to use the tech that we already have that I know is so powerful? How can I get more people to show up to role play? How can I do this? So think about your check down right now. Are you on track to hit your first quarter goal? If you are not, what has to change in either your activities, aka habits, right? Or in your strategy, right? And that's what we're talking about with these seller seminars these weeks are effective strategies from the number one playbook from agents that are doing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands, most of them millions and millions of dollars in real estate business. And we're giving those hacks. But some of us are looking at this going, yeah, that's cool. But you know what I'm going to keep doing? I'm just going to keep hoping that my business comes through Instagram. It makes me crazy. If you keep expecting the same result and you're not doing anything different and you're not adding strategies to your program, you're going to keep getting disappointed. And we saw a lot of people either get out of the business last year or take another job, right? And the reason that is two things. They weren't honest about their numbers and committed to doing what they needed to do. And number two, they didn't have enough strategies to produce enough leads when the market went down 36% in certain areas, right? Overall in the entire country. So all I'm saying is it's the time to really dig deep in our businesses, commit to our numbers, commit to being honest and open about tracking them, and understand that yeah, this isn't fun. It's not pretty. It's not it, but it doesn't lie to you, right? We will lie to ourselves every day just because we don't want to feel bad, right? We avoid pain at all costs. Being honest about our numbers sometimes causes some emotional pain, but that pain is going to lead to growth. Go ahead, Ann.
So let me ask you this, and I know we're a few moments over, but I think a lot of people in our community want to know this. If I'm in a scenario and I'm off pace, not by a little off pace, but a lot of off pace, as I'm looking into quarter two, what are my options? Do I just double down and double and triple the amount of conversations I need in order to play catch up through quarter two? Or do I adjust my goals? How do I make that decision?
Yeah, so we talked about this earlier in our power session, and I'll just take a few extra minutes for it. So it all depends, first of all, on what your goal is, right? If you know that your goal is to, let's just do the easy one for all of real estate, make $100,000 net in 12 months. And you know what your average commission is, that it's going to require to do that. When I say average, meaning that you know how much you need to make per deal to make that 100 grand a reality. And now, like I said earlier, if you've tracked your results, right? What I mean is, let's say that over the last 3 months, your goal was to make, let's make it simple numbers, 10 grand. Right? That would not be a lot in 10 months, or in 3 months, but I'm just going to make an easy number, right? Make it easy, 30 grand, right? 10 grand a month. That's fair, right? Your goal was to make 30 grand in March, right? If you know that in order for you to make 30 grand, you are going to need to have three closings, one a month, where you make $10,000. If in this first quarter, you know that you didn't do that, like you're not on track to do that, you don't have one under contract right now, you're not close to doing this on any level, and you've tracked all the information, then we know a couple of things. There's two different things we have to look at. Number one is, do I need more conversations per closed sale? Because let's say that you only did two sales and your goal was three. How many conversations did you have in the last 90 days to produce two sales? Now you kind of know what your new benchmark is. That's one metric. The second in resetting your goals is understanding ambassadors. And I don't know how else to say this, Anna. A lot of us are lying about our ambassadors. Okay. In our session today, I had people throw up 600, 900, 5,000, 1,500 in their database, right? If I were to call your database and ask people, who is your preferred real estate agent of choice, would they not even hesitate and they would say your name in 2 seconds? That's what we should be focusing on to build those relationships in our database, because for every six, we get a closed sale. Six ambassadors. And I know people are like, that's not true, but I know it's true. I've done it across the country with all kind of different agents from all different walks of life. If, here's the caveat, you're really doing the 46 touches, right?
Mm.
Having people in your database that you invite to Zoo Night once a year is not 46 touches. In fact, that's one touch, right? You're 45 touches short. Also, if those people in your database don't feel special and don't think that you care about them, you don't get to count them either. So we're not spending enough time digging into our database, because if you have 200 people in your database right now, you should be focused on getting out of that 200, make 50 of them, 50 true ambassadors first before you do anything else. If you have a 200-person database and you don't have 50 real ambassadors, I mean, you sat down with me and I go into your computer and I see all 46 touches, meaning they're scheduled, they're planned. You have personal touches in there, phone calls are scheduled, they're receiving market reports, they're on a home bot, they're getting all of the things, right? Then you have no problem. So, my point being is, people are trying to double or triple their goals sometimes. We need to look at, do we really have true ambassadors? If you audited your system, right, is your dry cleaner in there? Is the person that you're in the PTA with an ambassador? Are you working towards making them an ambassador? Right? The people that you had at game night last Saturday, are they ambassadors? That's the challenge. So it's a great question. I wouldn't double or try to make anything better. The conversation point of our two lead measures is just to get more people in your world, where all your money will come from is making those people feel special. Because the game has changed, ladies and gentlemen. Back in the day, I used to be able to just buy leads out the wazoo, and because I'm good at talking on, practicing my scripts, I could convert them. The cost for leads is so expensive now. There's so much competition for them right now that internet leads take so long to convert. They're a nightmare. Also, expireds for sell by owners, they're more challenging than ever right now, simply because of the phone systems being so hard to get somebody physically on the phone. So either I have to be an expired door knocking ninja, which I definitely can do, and there's tons of money if you're going to go that route because no one else is doing it, or I've got to be so good on the phone and my mailers have to be so good for expireds that I'm going to be able to outshine everyone else. The better plan is, I know people. Why don't I make them fall more in love with me and just ask them for referral business or sell when they're ready? I wish I would have known this 10 years ago. I would have made triple. But that's the business that we're trying to do. So think about your ambassador game plan. Think about going deeper, not wider. Think about not more, but more influential and more consistent, and all those results will happen faster. Anything else, Anna?
That's
Nope.
awesome. No, and I'm going to do a shameless plug. If you guys want to learn more about our ambassador process, the 46 touch program, how to go deeper and not wider, join us for next week's webinar. We're taking 60 minutes to talk about this one subject because it is a powerful piece of any successful real estate business. So we'll have the link and information in the details below. We'd love to have you join us. Bring your questions. And with that, we are going to wrap up this week's overtime. Brendan, any final thoughts as we say goodbye to our amazing
No, no.
community?
As always, thank you for everyone that joined us on the live stream. Any way we can provide value, let us know. If you're not part of the Pulse program, feel free to jump in again at any time. We'd be happy to help. And yeah, just again, recommit. There's only a few weeks left in this quarter. Let's go and let's close the gap. So everyone, have a powerful week. We'll see you on next Tuesday's session. And thank you. Goodbye.